Hello, lovely people, and welcome to the Distinct and Jovial podcast. My name is Dominic, and again, I am joined by my wonderful co-host, Jerry.
Good evening, Dom.
How you doing, Joe?
Very good, thank you. Looking forward to Easter.
I think we all are. This is a bonus episode. So we are testing out a new piece of software that we wanted to try to make our, shall we say, lives easier in terms of editing afterwards. Some of our sound has not been brilliant. So we have an hour trial on this. So we thought, what better way to do it than to record another podcast as if we weren't insane enough already.
I love it. You have to layer on insanity with more insanity. You need to slather it on.
Lather it on.
It's the only way to deal with it.
It's the difference between using a knife and a spoon in a jar of Nutella. We've gone full spoon here.
We have. Okay, so what's your preferred weapon of choice then for Nutella?
Weapon? Spoon.
Not knife.
Nutella you need both. Because you spoon it out of the jar and then you take the knife and then you scrape it off of the spoon onto whatever you're having the Nutella on, usually toast, and then you spread. But if you're doing jam, you just need a spoon.
What about a spork?
Spork? I'm not sure. Is that just so you can get your neat little lines along down your toes?
Like, you know, there's Japanese gardens when they put the lines through the gravel. You can do that with your Nutella.
It's supposed to be therapeutic.
It's very therapeutic.
I was more thinking of crop circles.
Yeah, that's not therapeutic. That's scary. I like therapeutic lines through the Nutella. You can just sit there with your cup of tea, just staring at your toast.
We shall see. So we're actually going to do a bit of a topical podcast. So the beginning of this will probably be more down the distinct route because most of the topics are not necessarily happy topics, although they may invoke either a Dom or a Jerry rant, which we all love to see. And then we have a little challenge for ourselves at the end, which I'm based on how we're starting, we aren't going to do very well.
No.
Do you want to introduce the first topic, Jerry?
Yes, I'd love to actually, because nobody really wants to talk about it. So I'm glad we're going to talk about it. So it's the Chris Rock and Will Smith altercation at the Oscars.
Which I'm sure... I mean, I was fed up of it. Like by after about 24 hours, I was like, oh my God, I've seen the video and that's it. I don't need to see any more. And I mean, the subsequent information has been interesting, but I don't know what your opinion is on it, Jerry.
Well, I'm keen to know your opinion first, actually, before I launch into it. Because I've been paying attention to it too much.
Okay.
I've been frighteningly obsessed with this for some reason. I keep watching it and rewatching it, and then reading every article about it, and then watching YouTube videos of people reacting to it. And I don't know what it is. I've got this unhealthy fascination with what happened because I think it was just so. I don't know. It was just shocking because I thought it was staged, and then I realised, oh no, it's not staged. And then I just keep replaying it in my mind and thinking, I wonder what was going through Will Smith's mind at that point, and then Chris Rock's mind at that point, and then looking at how everyone reacted. And for me, it's just a really interesting, fascinating car crash of a social experiment. Isn't it?
And that's exactly my opinion on it. Is it feels like a complete and utter car crash of a social experiment, and it embodies everything I hate about celebrityism and being famous. Ironic us doing kind of a podcast, but I don't want to be famous from this. I want to just enjoy what I do. And there are people, I think, out there that do have that celebrity, that kind of still enjoyment of what they do, and they just happen to be famous from it. But and I always assumed that actually Will Smith was one of the good guys, so to speak. I'll use my air quotes, good guys.
Yeah.
And that's why I think I was just so I was disappointed in it. It's almost like one of your heroes to a certain extent. It's kind of, ruined it. I mean, the only time I can really compare it, I suppose, for those that know, is perhaps when Lance Armstrong, one of the cyclists, came out and said, "Yeah, I cheated through all 7 of my titles." And you think, "Oh,
yes.
for God's sake, really?" And you just think, and it destroys a little bit of your soul, I think, because you just go, "Is there no good human being on this planet?" And I think there's definitely something dodgy going on in the background as well between Will Smith and is it Jada? Is his
Jada Pinkett
wife?
Smith, I think, is
yeah. Because you then read all the "I didn't want to get married" and all of that, and then you've also got the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp kind of almost like altercation as well on a similar sort of scale, and it just having that type of thing in the public eye, and I just think, you don't know what to believe anymore. You never know what to believe.
The Amber Heard thing makes me laugh. So I deliberately, I deliberately try and avoid reading up about that. They're back in court again, aren't they? Those two.
Yeah.
And just when you hear some of the stories of what they're alleging the other one's done, and my favourite being Johnny Depp alleging that Amber Heard allegedly did a walnut whip on his pillow.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's an interesting way of putting it.
Yeah,
that's
Mr. Whippy.
For context, listeners, myself and Jerry actually met up in person on Tuesday, and the bit that got me on Tuesday was Jerry saying Ralph.
Ralph. Which, I think it's a New Zealand term. I think that's in the. I learned it from a Kiwi that said it.
Okay.
It just stuck, and I love it. I've used it ever since. Ralph. Ralphed. So, yeah, I also find it fascinating as well with regards to what happened, because I think Will Smith crossed the line and something happened now that there's no going back from.
No.
And it can be, and it's actually quite shocking, because if you think of the way everybody reacted, and so he still managed to do his speech and everybody gave him a standing ovation. And he went through all this range of emotions, which is a bit bizarre. So he's laughing his head off. Even at the beginning, when Chris Rock said the joke, for about the first 3-4 seconds, he was laughing. Then he looked across at Jada and went, "Oh, she's not laughing. Oh, she's not finding this funny at all." And you don't really see what happened, but obviously at some point he must have looked across, realised, "Oh no, she's not laughing at that. I'm in right trouble." So he then decides to get up. Now, this is the thing that I find fascinating, is that if it was anybody else, you could go off on a rant and he could say what he said. He could have shouted that at that point. And, said, "You apologise. I want you to apologise. Or, I'm really sorry, but can I just say that was just completely out of order? Can you just take it back?" Something like that. But he didn't. He didn't do any of that. He decided to get up in the middle of this award ceremony, which is being watched by...
The Oscars.
The Oscars. Which is being watched by hundreds of millions of people worldwide. He goes up on stage and he slaps him. So he physically assaults Chris Rock. Then he goes back and just calmly sits down and then shouts, like completely loses it.
Yeah.
And then carries on like nothing's happened. Then he's up giving his speech, nonsensical speech, where he's bawling his eyes out, and then he's literally like an hour later, he's being filmed at some after party, and he's holding his Oscar, and he's dancing and singing and, you know, having a party, and just like nothing's happened. I mean, how weird is that?
Yeah, and you know, you could go into it and you'd be like, right, what's going on between those two? What's going on between, you know, this, that, and the other? And I just think, again, there's so many levels that I'm just disappointed. You know, was Chris Rock's joke out of line? Probably.
Bad. Yeah, it was, but it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's. Yes, I think it depends how you see it, right? Did Will Smith react the wrong way? Yes, absolutely, 100%. Is there something going on between him and Jada? Definitely. There's got to be something where, you know, he doesn't look like again, my air quotes coming out, a free man, so to speak. And then just the way that everybody else reacted, I was like, what? That's mad. You know, okay, you always say one good deed does not undo a lifetime of bad ones, and you should really sort of say one bad deed doesn't undo a lifetime of good ones, but it's fairly significant bad deed type thing. You've physically assaulted someone on national television on one of the biggest stages in the world because you didn't like the joke that they told.
Yeah.
That doesn't sit well with me.
And all it's done now, and the other facet to this, which I find fascinating, is, yeah, if you're a comedian, if that's your profession, whether you be a stand-up comedian or, well, in particular a stand-up comedian, but any comedian where you're going to appear on a show, or, you know, what do you do now? Because nobody sort of came down on Will Smith like a ton of bricks. They let him give his speech. They didn't kick him out of the ceremony. They still gave him his Oscar. They still let him speak. They still let him party. Chris Rock decided not to press charges, but is it up to Chris Rock? Because that's just physical assault. So the police could have said, yeah, I don't really care that Chris doesn't want to press charges. We've got evidence that you've just physically assaulted somebody and used disproportionate force. On TV. Yeah. It's been watched by, I don't know, 200 million people. I'm just saying some random figure there. I don't know what.
I mean, it's the fastest growing video on YouTube ever. Fastest,
is it
quickest.
Really?
Yeah. So a YouTuber known as Mr. Beast used to held the quickest, like, to billion views or something, or the most views in the first 24 hours upload. And it's a lot. It's a ridiculous amount. And that was when Squid Games was at hype. And Mr. Beast is a great YouTuber. He spends ridiculous amounts of money and is a really nice guy. Yeah, but this beat it. To be and I suppose it just kind of embodies everything I kind of dislike about American culture. I think that's what it just kind of shows. This whole celebritism. Certain people having more protection than others against kind of, you know, the law, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's where I'm just a bit disappointed.
Yeah, that bothers me. That all of a sudden, you know, you've got a situation now where just the normal rules don't apply. Just because you have celebrity status. I find that really weird. Because then all of a sudden it's like, well, what are the lines, and what does law and order mean anymore then? So what you're saying is that if I went up on stage, if I managed to sneak into the Oscars and I went up on stage and I slapped Chris Rock, I would have had security and police on me quicker than I could say, get jiggy with it.
Yeah. I was trying to think about.
I know, I was trying to think of something, but yeah, I mean, I would have been arrested. They would have pressed.
You probably
charges.
wouldn't even have made it.
No, I wouldn't have even. Probably not, and would have been thrown in jail, and I would have served time for that. Definitely,
absolutely.
Would have been a high-profile assault on a celebrity, but because it's one celebrity doing it to another, and the other thing that I find fascinating is you've got two people, obviously of the same ethnicity, Is that the right word?
I think so. I don't know, actually. I don't know if they're the right.
But, yeah. But I suppose that you've got two black males of similar age, and this has happened, and it's almost like nobody's known what to do. And I suppose it probably would have been the same if you had two white males of the same age, and that had happened. But what if you had a situation where you had a white male comedian up on stage making that joke about Jada, and Will Smith went and slapped the comedian? It would have been interesting to see what the reaction would have been then. Or can you imagine if it was a black comedian? So if it was Chris Rock,
and a white actor.
You had a white actor and then he went up and did that.
I shudder to think. I absolutely shudder to think. So, oh well. I think it's just mad. We'll move on to the second topic.
No. I want to spend the whole hour. I want to spend a whole hour. That was my surprise for you on this podcast.
Oh dear. Yeah, I'm kind of being a little bit of a timekeeper, I suppose, isn't it, to try and get through some of these topics.
Okay.
Try and get through the topics.
Don't need to do that. We can spend the hour. Don't have to rush this. Let's savor it.
It's all right. I'll just ask to do my Royal Mail rant, and then I'll be here for a couple of hours. It's
1
fine.
hour of Royal Mail rant.
Yeah, we'll save that for another one, listeners.
Yes.
The second one we've got is kind of a little bit of our opinion, but related to, again, some news that's happened recently. So I've put in to the notes the best Foo Fighters song. So unfortunately, it was the Foo Fighters drummer was found unfortunately dead in his hotel room. It was only a couple of only a couple of days after the whole Oscars thing, wasn't it? Or it might even been the next day.
Yeah, it might have even been the next day, I think.
Because it never really made it to top news.
No, and that's quite sad, actually, because that was a tragedy.
Yeah.
And, this whole Will Smith, Chris Rock incident just seemed to still be going on and on. Yeah,
it did for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And it was probably the first time that I'd seen something as a headline other than our third topic that we'll go into in a bit.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different as part of the experiment to try topical things. But I suppose I never remember what your music taste is like, Jerry, but I don't know if you're eclectic. I don't know whether I know that. Well, you know what my music taste is like because it's all the stuff. It depends on which ones I get right from the quiz that we used to do.
Yeah, there are some bands and certain genres that you know very well. I know a little about a lot when it comes to music,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
So for me, it's about breadth but not much depth.
Fair enough.
And I do like the Foo Fighters.
Oh, I love the Foo Fighters.
They're amazing, very talented.
Definitely, I think as a band, I would have quite liked to have seen live.
Yeah, same here. I would have liked to have seen them live and also Green Day.
Oh, yeah, I would have liked to see Green Day.
Can you imagine that? Seeing them live actually in the same concert, that would be awesome. And David Grohl is amazing.
He is amazing. He is definitely one of those kind of people that, and a kind of an inspirational person, and somebody who's not sort of let fame get to him too much.
Agree.
I think.
Yeah.
Definitely agree on that.
Yeah, he's grounded.
We'll just see which comedian he decides to slap. That's fine.
Ricky Gervais. Although he wouldn't want to. So Joe Rogan does stand-up comedy, doesn't he? He's a stand-up comedian. I'd like to see anybody slap Joe Rogan.
That would be an interesting.
Walk out of there.
Ex-MMA fighter.
Yeah. Have you seen him kicking a heavy bag? It's brutal.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Joe Rogan.
That was the other thing as well, I think. So sorry, just going back to the Will Smith thing, like, no,
It's okay.
no. But Will Smith knew he could get away with it. And I think that's the bit that I also find upsetting.
Yeah.
Because
Because
let's say that was Mike Tyson up there that had cracked that joke. You're gonna walk up to Mike Tyson and do that? Hell no.
Nope. No, you wouldn't. You'd just be like, there's lines and limits, isn't there?
Yeah. You wouldn't do it to Joe Rogan. He would knock you into next week. So
I shall see you next Tuesday, thunk.
Or Thursday. I don't mind which.
Thursday works as well. That's one of the interesting things, mate. I train Taekwondo Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's one of the few things I get to
see you then.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. No. I 100% agree. Like the host could have been anybody. And there. You know, I don't know much about Chris Rock, but he's not I wouldn't imagine he's an imposing fellow. It looked like Will Smith towered over him, so definitely.
So if I was Chris Rock now, you do realise we're going to end up talking for an hour about
We're going to talk about this the whole time.
No, we're not. But last thing I'm going to say on this, if I was Chris Rock, I think he needs to learn some kind of martial art. I think he needs to master it. And then next time somebody tries that sort of stunt, I think he needs to take them down.
I mean, Chris Rock currently is laughing to the bank.
Oh yeah,
his comedy show's sold out.
Yeah, and good on him.
That's mad. Welcome to celebrity status. Right, anyway, Foo Fighters, best song. Fighters.
I think Chris Rock and Will Smith also like this. No, I'm joking. So my favourite has to be All My Life.
Oh, okay.
Because I love the way it starts off slow, and I love the video for it as well.
Video's great.
But it's just that, and then it just picks up the tempo, and then you get into this full energy. So it starts off very melodic and very slow, and then it goes into this full energy song. And it's the kind of thing that you definitely headbang to. You blast it 100%. In the car. Yeah, it's an epic song.
If my speakers aren't rattling with something like that on, you've done it wrong.
Yeah. And I know it's a bit obvious and probably a bit cheesy, but I'm not a hardcore Foo Fighters fan where I start picking some random song that nobody's heard of and say, you obviously don't really appreciate the Foo Fighters, man, because you don't like this song.
I can go and have a rant about like pop people that go, you can't choose the popular tracks. Right? I could have an hour rant on that because I think that's ridiculous. Anyway, so I've cheated because I couldn't pick because I do. I think.
Have you chosen like 10 songs?
No. Well, yes and no.
Yes. How about no?
So, I particularly like Pretender, which is the first track on Echo, Silence, Patience and Grace. More because for the opposite reason of your one, it starts off as a banger and it's the first track on the album, and it holds almost a bit of nostalgia because it's the first kind of Foo Fighters album I've really got into. I like Everlong because it's on Guitar Hero and I played it so many times I can picture the colours coming down. It's like my full like arcade kind of like head. I could just picture it. Yeah, love Everlong for that reason. It's a really cheesy reason. And then basically the entire Colour and Shape album. The Colour and Shape album is just perfection. There isn't a song that I specifically like on Colour and Shape above the two that I've mentioned, but just as a whole kind of experience, that album together is just like, it's kind of like Nutella in a melted Nutella in a chocolate fountain type thing. Full Vicar of Dibley. I'm going in.
You are going in. Right. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I refer you to Exhibit A, which is the question, which is Foo Fighters, Drummer's Death, best Foo Fighters song, singular.
I said I cheated.
So, well, yeah, but you can't now. Now you have to choose one song. We have to narrow it down to one song.
I'm going to say Everlong.
Okay.
Everlong.
Okay.
I, in my head I'm going, but in this scenario it's Pretender, and in this scenario I'd want, but like if I'm just going to go Foo Fighters track, Everlong.
If you're going to be stranded on a desert island and you had an MP3 player and they said, we can only upload one Foo Fighters song onto this MP3 player, which one would it be? It's going to be Everlong.
Everlong, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because then it's like the... what am I, 5? Shapes and colours, I can see it. So, yeah, there you go.
Okay.
And, by the way, so my 2 mini rants then. Anybody that says that you can't like a song because it's the popular one, again, I've used air quotes for the 3rd time in this podcast.
Lots of air quotes.
Lots of air quotes. The popular song, you need to just get in the bin. There's the reason why they're the popular song, and that's because the song is good.
Exactly.
Right? If the song is good, I can like it. So can billions of other people. So if you tell me I can't like that song because it's the popular one, you can just get in the bin, because I haven't got time for you.
And do you know what?
You've
been doing so many air quotes tonight. Your fingers must be like iron. So if anybody argues with you, you can just you can poke their eyes out. Have it.
So you laugh, right? And Adam, who we had on a guest a couple of on, he'll know this. Actually, Laura got that high grade. Don't know. We do have a move that is like that, 2-fingered jab
in the eyes.
The aim is the eyes. Yes, it is.
Nice.
Oh God, I can't. I actually don't know what it is in English, but in Korean it is a songgarat, which must be straight, a twin straight fingered thrust or something like that. Not 100% sure. Swanee's gonna be like, oh my God, what are you doing, Dom? And my coach is probably. Yeah, but yeah, and it is in the pattern. It's done twice in a pattern.
There you go, snake bite.
So yes, I do have. So can I do 2-fingered push-ups or even 1-fingered push-ups? Absolutely not, because I have long.
Oh, can't you? Oh, I can.
No, I can't. Yeah, against the wall.
yeah, no, not even that. I can do air push-ups.
Push-ups
with my pinky.
With your pinky. That's like Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris doesn't do push-ups. He pushes the earth down.
Yeah, he really does.
And I got so much into a rant on that one, I forgot what my second rant was going to be.
Royal Mail.
Oh, no, I know what my second rant was going to be. Guitar Hero. Guitar Hero was a legendary game. Why the heck has there not been a new one? Why the heck can I not buy it? I need it in my life.
Yeah, I thought it was one of those things that's always been so popular. It's one of those games that never get rid of. Like Mario Kart, they've done how many versions of Mario Kart over the years? I thought Guitar Hero was the same.
No, it's weird. So I remember, I started at Guitar Hero 3 and then got Guitar Hero 4. So those are the only 2 that I've actually played. And Guitar Hero 3 was guitars only, and 4 was the first time they also had drums. So it was just like, great, another instrument that I learned that I can't actually play. And loved it. And in fact, I spoke about the first time I got drunk to you, Jerry, on Tuesday.
Yes.
That's what we ended up playing for the entire night. It might have been Rock Band, which was a harmonics alternative to Guitar Hero, but it was the same principle. But yeah, you can't get the game anymore. It doesn't exist. And I know people will go, "Oh, just get a real guitar." And it's like, no, I am in my mind 5 years old. I want the 5-button guitar. I don't want to be doing strings. I want and I want to sit there, shapes and colors.
Yes, and you don't want to spend like 25 years learning how to master a real guitar. You just want to pick the thing up, you got your 5 colours, bosh.
Yeah.
Off you go.
Bish, bash, bosh, job done.
Exactly.
That's what I want. That's what I want.
What you really, really want.
Who was that?
Spice Girls.
That was Spice Girls, that was. I can hear Laura squirming to that call now. Right, the next topical event that we had to discuss, and it's probably the most downer of the 3 that we've got, but it's good to I think it's good to acknowledge it. So we just wanted to kind of acknowledge the Ukrainian invasion that Russia is currently doing. No, I'm not going to say Russia. That Vladimir Putin is currently coordinating. Don't want to single out Russians because I think there's some good people in there. It's Vladimir Putin is just being a massive. Yes, I can't repeat what I want to say. And at the time, so today is the 14th of April, so kind of must be nearly 50 days now since it first started.
I think so, yeah.
And I know that Russia have just kind of pulled out from the north kind of Kiev area. And they're kind of concentrating on the southeast area now, on the port cities and that side of things. So it hurts still for me, especially. I know a lot of people, both me, particularly work with a lot of people out there from Ukraine. So initially it did hurt when they kind of there, and lots of rage, lots of hatred towards Vladimir Putin. I cannot lie. Speaking of pillocks.
Yeah, and you're right in the sense that this is his war. Even his closest advisors and the people around him, I don't think even they thought he was going to do it. So he's gone full on rogue, just lost the plot. And it is tragic because you've got people losing their lives on both sides. And for what? Guy's an absolute lunatic.
Yeah, and I won't even, he's gone full kind of straight in it, and I won't even, give him the privilege of having, a full Leroy dedicated to him, because a full Leroy is that's it's humour, it's heartfelt, and this is not. And at the moment there's kind of all this evidence of war crimes and things like that coming out, and you just think, I'm a person that gets frustrated. I fully admit there are times where I'm like, oh my God, if I could take a baseball bat to somebody, it would make my life so much easier. But in fact, actually, I'm going to say a quote from The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, but it's from the 3rd book. And it's the way that it goes, the 2 policemen are in the thing, and the prosecutor is talking to the detective, and the detective is sat there hearing this idiotic thing, and he sees the law and order of the Swedish police, and he goes to himself, it's taken every ounce of my energy not to take this book and ram it down your throat. and then he goes, normally it's up to the moral citizen to not enact on those impulses. Normally when they do, that's when I get called. I wonder what would happen if I actually did that in this case. So, you don't enact on those things, and then you just get these people in positions of power, and you just think, oh.
There's a quote, and I'm going to find it whilst I say this, because I read it today, and I thought, oh my God, this just sums it up perfectly. It was, it's a quote of a comedian, the comedian Bill Burr. So I'm going to see if I can find it. But whilst I'm looking for that, I think the biggest tragedy for me at the moment is that I think probably the most shocking thing for me, the thing I also find most frustrating, is how the media reports on things. So there was just full-on focus in the whole build-up to the invasion of Ukraine, and then obviously in the opening days and couple of weeks, because the media had a field day. They would just say, "Oh, this is more bad news. Excellent, because bad news sells." So this is, do you know what I mean? So it was just we didn't actually hear about anything else, pretty much.
No. It's kind of been brushed under the carpet. The whole, our prime minister being fined, he should resign or be sacked. Right? He's a criminal. He's committed a criminal offence. By the way, let's not go into that one. Pandemic still exists. There's loads of other things, and it kind of. I mean, the media is a whole entity, and full disclosure for us, I do all our social media for us on the Instagram page that we've now got set up, and I make all the thumbnails because that's what I enjoy doing. Jerry provides his wonderful voice and beautiful face to this podcast.
Thank you, Dom. Checks in the post,
and he provides the best. And he is also one of the best friends that I have ever known.
Oh.
But
likewise,
I'm guilty of it. I will make these clickbaity titles to get people to click for views because I want to share the podcast and our thoughts and our opinions. I don't have to, but it's the name of the game these days. Is you have to make that clickbaity thing, and you've got on the one hand people like the BBC. It's kind of like one of the more reliable ones, and you got like people like the Daily Mail whose whole inherent purpose is to just build rage, and I just think that the newspaper should be burnt to the ground because it brings out the worst in people, because people read the news and think that it's truth when actually every single bit of news, regardless of whether it comes from the BBC or that, is not truth. It's spun in a way that makes you click it. And I know that the BBC do it because I've gone onto their homepage and seen an article with a title, and I've gone, it doesn't, I've scrolled past it because it doesn't interest me. And then I've come back like 2 hours later, and the news article has a different title, the same picture, and a different title. Okay. And that title, I go, that title sounds interesting. And it's not till I go to click it and I go, I'm sure that was the article that was done, that was there, elsewhere. 100%. It's 100% all clickbaity. Exactly how it works.
I just struggle with the fact that there's no balanced reporting anymore. That really annoys me. I don't trust any news sources now. So I'm going to also say something very controversial in a minute, off the back of what I found the quote. So this is by Bill Burr, and he said, "Everybody should just quit the military around the world, and that's it. It's done. We're not doing this anymore. You lunatics, go sit down and solve your problems another way. There is no world where you should watch somebody of any nationality have to say goodbye to their kids because two rich people are having a temper tantrum with each other and have decided to have a war." How good is that quote?
I mean, the weapons should not have ever needed to be invented for human versus human.
Yeah.
And okay, I'm not vegetarian or anything like that, and I understand. So I understand you need something to take out animals, so to speak. I'd like to be more conscientious on that side, but struggle bus. But weapon versus human versus human should just really not really exist.
No, it's absolute lunacy. And I'm going to say something really controversial now.
Mm-hmm.
The controversial thing for me is, from a Western perspective, we're also, we're very judgmental. Look, quite rightly, everything that Putin's been called out for and the stuff that the atrocities that have been committed absolutely need to be called out. But I think at the same time, if you're going to go to such lengths to call something like that out, you've also then got to acknowledge the failings of Western foreign policy. So, 1 million Iraqi civilians have died, have been caught in the crossfire of a war where the states and the UK and other Western countries decided we're going to take. I mean, Iraq is not small, for goodness sake.
No.
Just went windmilling in there, and
with the keys out.
Yeah, and as a result of that, 1 million Iraqi civilians, men,
we
women, children.
We are terrible. We are off at the moment as a collective species, and this is where I'm going to delve into a little bit of my Matrix theory, a little bit. My favourite scene, or not my favourite set of like quotes is when Agent Smith is talking about the human race and what they are.
Yes.
The human race, quite rightly, are a virus. We don't have the same behaviour patterns. We go to space and we expand and we invade. We don't harmonise.
No.
And at the moment, you take everything that's happened in Ukraine and you go, well, why didn't we react like this when it was Iraq? I'm not as well and because of the media, I am not well enough educated to make a notice on the different countries and how it works, because I have no idea. I've got Scooby-Doo, and I'm a massive Formula One fan. Why the heck are we going to Jeddah and racing in Jeddah when they've got such terrible human rights things? Exactly. Right? They had a terrorist attack the day before the Grand Prix, and they still went racing because money. And similarly, why didn't we go and help these people with humanitarian aid? No, we went in and we invaded the country instead. Great. And similarly, like, people are taking in refugees from Ukraine. Well, why didn't we do that for Iraq and other places like that? And that I've spoken to people and they've talked about things that happen in Africa. I don't know, because the media doesn't report on it. And okay, I could definitely spend more time educating myself on what is actually going on around the world, but I've only got 24 hours in my day. And there's only so much that I can do. I mean, most of the time it's taken up for 12 hours of work. That's a different problem. The point being is it's whatever you grab what's easiest, and the easiest is normally the news. What's the top headline?
Exactly. So you go for the easiest option, and I'm going to use air quotes now, but the laziest option, because you'd have to really put a lot of investment of time to understand what's going on in other parts of the world, which is not reported on. Mm-hmm. But I'll how about this as for a moral dilemma? So, I remember listening to and watching Tony Blair on TV it was a question time special, and he was explaining to the audience why he thinks it's important that we should go and invade Iraq. So, hadn't heard about this theory or anything had never heard this theory. All of a sudden, he was claiming that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, and he could launch an attack against the UK and the West in an hour. That's what the intelligence reports had apparently, pulled together the reports. This is what they fed back. And so he firmly believed that. Now, I'll put it to you and say, Putin in his own mind, in the same way that Blair was completely wrong, Putin's also completely wrong.
Completely wrong.
But Blair still gets airtime. Blair, he's constantly on the news. He's on the radio. He's on TV. He's constantly making comments about different political issues. He seems to have a view on everything these days. He gets the airtime. He hasn't been prosecuted. He hasn't been brought to, he hasn't been held to account for what he's done.
No.
He's got blood on his hands.
Yeah.
And we've lost the plot.
And the thing that gets me from it is that we don't arrest people for crimes they might commit. Yeah. So why would we go and invade a country for something they might do?
Yeah.
It's just a dick waving contest. That's all it ends up being. But I've got the biggest one, and look at me waggle it around. What?
And 1 million civilians have died.
Yeah.
You can't even get your head around that. It's sick. It's insane. So
a million in your brain is just tangibly
you can't
a
count.
lot.
You couldn't count to a million in your lifetime. It's physically
No,
impossible.
I think the time it takes you to count.
Time it takes you to count.
Up.
Yeah, you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Man alive. Right, we're going to go on to a little bit of a lighter bit. We've got a bit of an advantage in that we've made ourselves thoroughly depressed before we're doing this. So I'm going to use a little bit of comedic timing to try and win this one to make sure that Jerry is the one. So
that's supreme confidence there.
I know,
okay.
Supreme confidence. I am a man of steel. So we have 100% stolen this from another podcast. We Got the Chocolates, which has one of my favourite jokes in, but it's not repeatable on air. I don't think it's repeatable on air.
How?
And they do.
How risque can we get?
We can go as risque as you want to go.
Okay.
Probably steer it clear from maybe racists, sexists.
Yeah, no, nothing like that. Well,
yeah.
Okay.
Nah, We'll be fine. It's all in good humour, and we mean no offence in this next section. But we're doing almost like a try not to laugh challenge.
Yes.
Where we're going to tell each other 3 jokes. Now, we've got 14 minutes left of our recording, just less than 14 minutes before we run out of time. So we'll have to go through this relatively quickly.
Okay.
But we shall see. And do you want to go first or second, Jerry?
Second.
Okay. Right. I shall start off with mine. I've got 2 short ones and 1 long one, but we'll alternate. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Don't trust yourself to speak. So, I've been trying to tell the people the benefits of eating dried crepes. It's all about raising awareness. Keep it together now, Jerry. It's harder than I thought it was going to be.
This is not easy. Okay. I walked into a pub with my wife. The landlord said, "Would you like a beer for your wife?" I said, "Oh, sounds like a fair swap."
That's good. That's strong. Oh. That's a strong one. I mean, we're going to get into my what I don't like doing, Jerry, and into my fears. I'm claustrophobic, so I have a fear of elevators, but I've started taking steps to avoid them. It's your reaction.
Wait 1 second. I'm laughing because you laugh.
I'm laughing at you. I know. Oh, God, that was hard. Whew.
Oh, for goodness sake. Right, okay, we're going to have to do a reset. Okay, you ready?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, here goes.
It's all about the delivery.
It is. I wanted to thank everyone for sticking with me while I figured out the meaning of many. It means a lot.
Oh, so good. Oh, that's really good. Oh, if the listeners could see what I can see, Jerry's currently got his arm planted across his face earlier, and that's what made me crack. That's what made me crack. I've got a long one for you this time.
Go on.
So stick with me on this one. Stick with me. It's one of my favourite jokes. One of my favourite jokes. So 2 men they're lost. They're very tired, very hungry, and they're looking for food. So they come across a wise old monk, and they ask where they can find some food. He says to them, if you go down the ravine, across the rickety bridge, past the desert plains, and into the jungle, at the centre, there's a bacon tree. A bacon tree? No such thing exists. Trust me, a bacon tree. So these two men, absolutely flabbergasted, think, well, we're hungry. We need to go find this bacon tree. So they go down the ravine, across the rickety bridge, past the desert plains, and they arrive and enter the jungle. They spend hours looking for this bacon tree, absolutely hours. And just as they get to the centre, they're jumped upon, they're attacked, and they're everything's robbed. They lose all their big belongings, and unfortunately, one of the men die. So the man that's remaining, he crawls, he's bloodied and beaten. He crawls his way back out of the jungle, goes past the desert plains, across the rickety bridge, and back up to the ravine to find the wise old monk. He finds the wise old monk and he claims, there was no bacon tree. My friend was attacked and killed, and all my things were robbed. Ah, exclaims the wise old monk, looking thoughtful. I was mistaken, my friend. It wasn't a bacon tree. It was a ham bush. One more to go, Jerry.
That's just so silly. That is so silly.
I can't. It's no good. I can't when you're just trying to hold in that laugh. Yeah, it's a ambush.
Okay. This is for all you mathematicians out there. If 666 is all evil, then 25.806978 is the root of all evil.
That's terrible. That's terrible. God, we had some strong ones there.
We did.
We did have some strong ones there.
You
well, I don't think it's ever possible for us to not laugh.
The ham bush is my favourite. Bacon tree. That's ridiculous. That's my favourite. Of all of them, I think that's the best one.
What I like about that one is the first two are like quite short, nice and short and sweet. That one, it's got a real build up, and you're expecting some really clever punchline.
It's so silly. You know what this reminds me of? The Monty Python thing with the funniest joke in the world. Do you remember that? Did you ever see that sketch? And they used it as a secret weapon in World War One. And they were throwing
the funniest joke in.
Yeah, and they were throwing the jokes over the trenches, and the Germans are reading it and dying laughing. And the joke was, my dog Rex has no nose, and how does he smell? Bloody awful.
Bloody awful.
Which I got somebody to translate for me, somebody who could speak fluent German, and he translated it into German. And he came up with, mein Hund Rex hat keine Nase. Wie riecht er? Absolut scheußlich.
That, Samwise, when you listen to this podcast, you will love, because Samwise is fluent in German. So.
Oh, there you go. Ich habe Scheiße in meine Unterhose.
Oh, I can't do German.
Don't want to delve into that.
Yeah. So we've got just over 5 minutes left. I want to tell one more joke that's on the similar vein. It's a Christmas joke, but I want to tell it because I think it will cause you to crack. So, 3 men died on Christmas Eve and were met by St. Peter at the pearly gates. In honour of this holy season, St. Peter said, you must each possess something that symbolised Christmas to get into heaven. The first man fumbled through his pockets and pulled out a lighter. He flicked it on. It represents a candle, he said, to the representation of Jesus and all the things that's bright and holy, a candle. You may pass through the pearly gates, St. Peter said. The second man reached into his pocket and pulled out a set of keys. He shook them and said, they're bells. Represent all things musical and magical about Christmas. You may pass through the pearly gates, my son, St. Peter says. The third man starts searching desperately through his pockets. Can't really find anything. And eventually he pulls out a pair of women's underwear. And St. Peter looks at the man with the raised eyebrow and asks, and what does that symbol? And he turned around and went, well, they're carols. And that is my Christmas joke of this one.
Okay. Can I tell the one joke which I think is... It's the joke that's never failed to make me laugh no matter what mood I'm in. But I don't know if it's a sexist joke or... I don't know how this is going to be received. It's not actually... I don't think it's that bad. I suppose you can edit
Go for
this.
it.
I suppose you can edit this if you don't deem it suitable. But here we go. So...
My mother would have to be the judge of it.
Okay. So a woman walks into a bar and asks the barman for a double entendre. So he gave her one.
That's terrible.
Editing?
No, it's fine.
You sure?
Yeah, it can say it. I want to hear my mother's opinion on that. But...
I don't think she's going to be best pleased with that one.
Right. Well, that was a nice, short and sweet podcast that we've just got through. Jerry, you've got just less than 3 minutes to give us your final thoughts and to close us out.
Oh, final thoughts on Will Smith and
Final
Chris
thoughts.
Rock. I'll just squeeze that in for 3 minutes. No, final thoughts. I'm actually a bit lost for words, really. I think I like what we've done in this podcast. It was distinct. It was definitely jovial. And I think no matter what happens in life, they can't stop you from laughing. So let's just try and focus on laughter, on love, peace. Let's put our energies towards that. There you go. That's my message. Closing message.
Definitely. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you very much for listening, folks. This has been a small bonus podcast. The next podcast will come out as normal on the 1st of May. We've got a little bit of a banger lined up. I'm quite excited for that one as well.
I am as well.
Thank you very much. Stay safe, and we will catch you on the next one.
Take care, everyone.